Subscribe for daily boxing videos, guys. So we have about a little over a week to go before Chris Eubank Jr. and George Groves face off. Now this is a big fight. There's a big deal fight. And I don't know about you guys, but I think this is the most exciting fight in the World Series at super middleweight. At least the most competitive fight. You know, we had, who we had a Callan Smith, Rob Brandt. But I think out of all these guys, Jamie Cox, but I think about all these guys, I think we could all agree that Chris Eubank Jr. and George Groves fighting each other probably excites us the most, right? Because I'm excited for this fight. I think this is going to be a good fight. I think this is going to be a competitive fight. I think both of these guys are going to have their moments. I've said in the past that I see George Groves losing to Chris Eubank Jr. I feel that George Groves has the experience. I feel that he is clearly been in there with the better opposition. Obviously, there's no question. But I feel that he's kind of wore down. He's been in a lot of wars and a lot of tough fights. And he has a problem where he fights his opponent's fights. When George Groves' style kind of suits Chris Eubank Jr.'s style, if you get what I'm saying. I feel like even though Chris Eubank Jr. has not, fought the level of opposition that George Groves has fought, and he definitely isn't, the biggest puncher George Groves has faced, because he's faced guys like Carl Froch, and I believe Carl Froch is a bigger puncher than Chris Eubank Jr. But despite the fact that he's a lot less experienced, I think he has a lot more in his tank. I think he has a lot more ambition, because he's never been a champion. And I think because George Groves is going to be fighting in the pocket, that's going to benefit Chris Eubank Jr. because Chris Eubank Jr., in my opinion, is an excellent inside fighter. I think what he does best is he's really good at inside fighting. If you get inside on the pocket with Chris Eubank Jr., he will throw uppercuts and, rip your head back with uppercuts, brutal uppercuts. He's good with body shots. George Groves, I think the way to beat Chris Eubank Jr. is to outbox him. Make him come to you. Make him follow you. Make him chase you. And then you play the counterpuncher and you counterpunch his ass and stuff like that. I think that's how you beat Chris Eubank Jr. George Groves, I think, has the foot speed to do that and to fight that way. But George Groves has a lot of machismo, and he's a guy that likes to fight his opponent's fights. So I think what you're going to see is you're going to see George Groves go. If George Groves is going to win this fight, he's going to have to fight on the outside. I think he's going to have to make Chris Eubank Jr. follow him. Follow him and counterpunch him. So I think he has to keep it long, stay away from Chris Eubank Jr. But like I said, because George Groves has so much machismo, he's going to actually fight Chris Eubank Jr.'s fight, in my opinion. I think this is going to happen. Obviously, I could be totally wrong. But I think it's going to happen. I think he's going to fight George Groves' fight, go on the inside against this man, and he's going to end up giving George Groves the advantage because he's going to end up giving Chris Eubank Jr., the advantage because Chris Eubank Jr. wants you to be in the pocket with him. And because George Groves has so much machismo and he's going to be fighting him toe-to-toe because he's one of these guys, no, he wants to get the better of his opponents. Because he's going to be doing that, he's going to be giving Chris Eubank Jr. the opportunity to catch him with uppercuts. Now, one thing I did notice in the press conference, the first press conference, was that George Groves was much bigger. He was much bigger naturally, like taller. So I think maybe if he fights him on the inside, maybe he could use that to an advantage and be